The O'Reilly Factor's on tonight.
The Secretary of Homeland Security, working with myself and my staff, will begin immediate construction of a border wall.
Big action today on the illegal immigration front. Not only is the wall going up, but sanctuary cities may be going down.
Cracks down on sanctuary cities. Empowers ICE officers to target and remove those who pose a threat to public safety.
Tonight, the Factor will have extensive analysis of President Trump's executive orders.
We are lucky to have Donald Trump step up for the most important job in this country.
Also ahead, if some left-wing Americans will never support Trump, will right-wing Americans ever criticize him? We'll take a look at that. Caution. You are about to enter the no spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Big crackdown on illegal immigration. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Fulfilling a campaign promise, President Trump has ordered the immediate construction of a wall on the southern border. And not only that.
Our order also does the following. Ends the policy of catch and release at the border. Requires other countries to take back their criminals. They will take them back. Cracks down on sanctuary cities, empowers ICE officers to target and remove those who pose a threat to public safety.
Mr. Trump signing two executive orders earlier today, which send a signal, a strong signal, that illegal immigration is going to be dealt with in a very aggressive way. To explain further, catch and release is a policy reinstituted by President Obama, where those sneaking across the southern border could ask for asylum and almost immediately be set free, sometimes handed a bus ticket that you and I paid for to an address anywhere in the USA. Few of those released ever return for their court hearings. That policy was a scandal. Now it's finished. Secondly, the sanctuary cities, as you know, have openly defied federal law for decades. Now, federal funds may be denied to those places. So on day 3 of President Trump's first week in office, he sent shockwaves through the liberal communities. Also, Mr. Trump is calling for a federal investigation into voter fraud, where he alleges that millions of illegal aliens are voting. That's a good thing, the investigation. We should know if fraud on Election Day is real or not. Also, the president has informed the city of Chicago that if the murder epidemic there doesn't stop, federal authorities will intervene. Another good thing. And that intrusion is likely to happen as Illinois Governor Bruce Runner and Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel will not stop the brutal gang killings. They just won't do it, which have taken thousands of innocent lives. How that situation has been allowed to go on for years is another scandal, and perhaps the most vivid illustration of racism Talking Points has ever seen. So President Trump is acting quickly, and according to a Rasmussen Daily presidential tracking poll, Americans are taking notice. Today, the poll has 57% of likely U.S. voters approving of Donald Trump's job performance, 43% disapproving. It remains to be seen, however, whether a border wall will be effective, whether sanctuary cities will finally obey the law, and whether ending the catch and release program will slow down illegal border crossings. But at this point, strong federal action is being taken, no question about it. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. Is Kate's Law next? As you may know, the Factor was instrumental in proposing a federal law that would impose tough, mandatory federal prison terms for foreign criminals convicted who defy deportation. Kate's Law was sabotaged by the villain, Senator Harry Reid, but will now be reintroduced. Joining us from Philadelphia, Congressman Steve King, who's promoting the law in the House, Senator Ted Cruz doing the same thing in the Senate. So where are we on Kate's Law, Senator Cruz?
Well, good evening, Bill. It's good to join you. Kate's Law, as you noted, in the last Congress, we brought it up for a vote. The House of Representatives passed it, and the Senate Democrats filibustered it. We got 3 votes in the Senate last time around. I hope and believe we'll bring it up for a vote again, but this time we're going to have a president, unlike Barack Obama, a president who supports Kate's Law, supports a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 5 years in prison for aggravated felons who illegally re-enter this country.
Sure, and if they do
it, it was named.
Now,
Yes.
why do you think
and
President
as you know,
Obama...
it was named after Kate Steinle, who you shine the light on so powerfully. the terrible story where she was murdered by a career criminal who kept coming into this country over and over and over again. Kate Steinle should never have been killed. And if the laws made sense, that wouldn't have happened.
Right. This guy, this low-level drug dealer, came back 7 times after being deported 6 times.
Yep.
Why do you think, Senator Cruz, that Barack Obama, President Obama, didn't get behind the law?
Well, unfortunately, President Obama and an awful lot of congressional Democrats support illegal immigration. They give a little bit of rhetoric to the contrary.
This is violence. This isn't illegal immigration.
But they don't distinguish among them. And so the Obama administration repeatedly released violent criminal illegal aliens. They released murderers. They released rapists.
Right.
You know, Bill, I was down in the border at McAllen a couple of months ago, and I was visiting with Border Patrol and sheriffs and law enforcement. And it was right after the presidential election. And the degree of relief of these men and women who risked their lives trying to keep this country safe, because in the Border Patrol, for 8 years, they've had political leadership telling them, don't do your job. You'll be punished for doing your job. And I think that changed on January 20th. I think today's orders were an example of strong leadership from President Trump.
All right. Now, Congressman King, you're a hero, too, along with Senator Cruz, because you're driving this law in the House. It's not going to have any problem in the House. It's the Senate where they're going to have to get a few Democrats over, which I agree with Senator Cruz that will happen. Joe Manchin will come over. A few others will come over. Where is your bill, Congressman King, and Senator Cruz's bill, and Senator Grassley's a hero, too? Is it compatible now? Is it the same wording? Have you guys reconciled it?
It is. We're reconciled on the language, and it's happened before that Senator Cruz and I have matched up on legislation that just by, I'll say, proper instinct rather than planning it. But we came together on this in that fashion, and Matt Salmon had this bill last Congress. He's retired, so I picked it up verbatim and introduced it into the Congress. We're gathering signatures now. I didn't check the numbers, but they're just growing and it's early. I serve on the Judiciary Committee. It's a natural for me to take it up. And it passed the Congress, last Congress, 241 to 179. And we have a president who's calling for it. So I'm confident it will pass the House and probably fairly early in this Congress.
All right. So I was going to say, Senator Cruz, what's the time frame on this?
Well, I hope sooner rather than later.
But I mean, we're talking weeks, months. What are we talking?
You know, that's going to be a decision for Mitch McConnell. I'm certainly pressing for the vote as soon as possible. And we've got 10 red state Democrats who are up for election in states in 2018 that Donald Trump carried. And I got to say, if you're a red state Democrat, you can't be thrilled about the prospect of voting in favor of letting in career criminals, especially when you have a president of the United States who I hope is going to be shining. Of course it should.
Should it be unanimous? I mean, is it, who? I mean, just think about it. Think about it. You got a violent, convicted criminal, convicted here in the United States, not Bolivia. All right? And you deport him at our expense, and he comes back, and you don't want to put him in jail for 5 years? What? Why? It's insane.
It is exactly right. But you know, Bill, in the last Congress, the head of the Immigration Enforcement Unit under Obama was testifying to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I asked her a simple question. I said, how many murderers, illegal aliens with homicide convictions, did DHS, did the Obama administration release this week? She said, I don't know. I asked how many rapists. She said, I don't know. I said, how many people committed an aggravated assault? I don't know. That's crazy, and the answer should be 0, 0, and 0, and I hope and believe with this new president, with this new administration,
I just hope
they're
that
not
the Democratic
going to be releasing
Party,
violent criminals to prey on the
Congressman
American
King, I just hope the Democratic Party and the reps in the House would join with the Republicans, you know, and just put up and say, look, enough of this madness. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to come together and pass Kate's law. And the Steinle family at least would have that. Last word, Congressman King.
Jim and Liz Steinle deserve our prayers, and they deserve the action of the United States Congress, the House, and the Senate. And I know that when Jim testified before the House Judiciary Committee, it was heartbreaking. And the courage that brought him to that Congress to deliver that story of his daughter being shot in the back and dying in his arms. When I saw that happen in the news the first day, I sent out a tweet that said, this will make you cry. Thinking of it even this many months pastward, that's what it does. We've got to step up and serve this. It's not 124 families or so that are grieving here. It is thousands of families altogether over the years.
And
The final
Americans
words
who
for Dad
are
as he
grieving
was
with
dying in
them.
his arms were, please help
Right.
me.
That's right. And Brad
and I
Steinley,
hope that
too, the brother.
Congress hears that plea and answers.
Okay. All right, guys. You're doing great work, and we really appreciate you coming on tonight. Next on the Rundown, Bowling and Rivera will respond to the executive orders today on illegal immigration. Then a college professor says the vicious, hateful campaign against President Trump should stop. Factor's coming right back. Continuing now, the lead story, President Trump signing 2 tough executive orders on illegal immigration. Here now in New York City, Eric Bolling and Aurelio Rivera. You both support Kate's law, right? Yep.
I have no problem, generally speaking, with mandatory minimums. My objection is that when you conflate the murder epidemic in Chicago with what happened to Kate Steinle, that is it's young black men killing young black men.
Brother,
that's
you're
what's
wandering
happening.
now. But it's
I'm not wandering.
This bill
it's just that
has nothing to do with
the
Chicago.
undocumented immigrants get all the garbage thrown on them.
If you were a senator,
and they are portrayed as this violent population
if you were a
when
senator,
they are not.
would you vote for Kate's law? Yes or no?
It would be. I would have to say no, and I'll tell you why.
Boy, I mean, it's brutal. If you would not vote...
During the crack epidemic, we passed mandatory minimums for people who use crack as opposed to powder cocaine. What we ended up doing was decimating the minority population and filling the federal prisons.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
This guy should have been in jail, though. This is not...
He should have been in federal prison.
But he's a 7-time offender.
Doing 30.
He's a 7-time offender. He should have been in jail for
30.
life.
But if they had Kate's law, he would have been. Okay. Let's go to sanctuary cities. Yeah. All right. Executive order signed. No specificity on what funds will be denied, San Francisco and other places. And you're going to have to get Congress involved because they have the purse strings. What do you think?
Well, maybe you have to get them involved because there are ways to hold back. Look, there are funds that are sent to cities, states and cities for protection, for border protection to assist the removal of illegals from their cities or municipalities. They can pull some of that back if they choose. But there are other funds that they can pull back as well. They don't have to cut off completely.
So you think
there's law
these
enforcement
cities and counties that are doing this are going to get punished and punished fast?
Well, I think Trump is the first one who's going to step up and do it. We haven't had it now.
He signed the order to
during
do it.
Obama, but even prior to that, it's basically been a look away. Yeah, okay, we're going to look away.
Do you think they're going to get punished?
And it's a good thing.
Not only do I think that this will start a tidal wave of lawsuits.
Yeah, California, Jerry Brown
lawsuits. Every jurisdiction of the 300 U.S. cities, there's a reason 300 U.S. cities are sanctuary cities. A federal judge in Chicago, and I've told this to Bolling before, has said that the federal detainer, in other words, what was wrong with Kate, with Sanchez, the killer of Kate? The problem is they didn't send an arrest warrant to the sheriff of San Francisco.
But they told him to hold him.
They said to detain him. The federal judge in Chicago has now said that detainers are illegal. Why? Because it is the federal government cannot order a local jurisdiction
but Sessions is going to
enforce immigration law.
Sessions is going to get in there, and he's going to even be tougher than Trump on sanctuary cities. My question to you is not whether it's right or wrong. Do you think that the funds are going to be withheld from these places?
I think, legally speaking, there are 2 Supreme Court decisions. Legally speaking, as Eric alludes to, the only funds you can withhold, in other words, you can't withhold highway funds or school funds for a city like this gets billions of dollars. You can withhold federal grants to law enforcement because arguably this is about law enforcement.
But they need that. I mean, these
of course they need. Imagine
these
both
cities
agree
are broke.
at least something will be
money.
done.
It's punishment.
But in some places like California, because Jerry Brown, the governor, has already said we're going to litigate everything. Now, on the second front, the wall. Okay? I support the wall not because I think it's going to stop people. It will. It'll cut them back. But drugs. It's going to make it much harder for the cartels to get heavyweight drugs into the United States. And therefore, it's worthy for that reason. bowling.
I agree with you 100%. Now, I know Geraldo's going to push back because I've seen Geraldo in drug tunnels looking for El Chapo before. Yeah, they will tunnel.
He's a Brooklyn Geraldo,
but here's the
if you
point.
want.
You put a barrier up, you make it more difficult.
As I reported,
make it more difficult.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just by law of physics, you're going to restrict some of it. Not all of it, but a percentage of it. And the bigger the wall, the higher the wall, the deeper the wall, the more you'll restrict.
But you say, I've been in El Chapo's tunnels. It's not going to stop the pros. It's going to stop Juan and Maria, the apricot.
Okay, Geraldo.
The avocado
you make it harder for the
It will
pros.
stop.
It'll make it harder for the
I'm going to shock you. I am withdrawing my opposition to the wall.
Oh!
I think that, no, listen to me. Elections have consequences.
Yes.
This was his signature issue.
Absolutely.
And if the
folks want
people want the wall,
They
which I
want
think is
it.
a waste of money.
Can I make a point here that
$20
you and I
billion
almost got into a fight? We almost walked outside on a show once over the wall.
We can pick it up right now. No,
Well, no, but Geraldo's down with the wall now.
No,
and you know, I think you should have a piece of the wall sponsored. Sponsored by Geraldo. We'll have his picture there.
You're
like
going to
they
have
do
a
with the highway.
$25 billion wall, and you're going to have a $25 ladder, and the ladder will triumph.
Well, let's see. The guy can't carry over a ton of drugs on the ladder.
Wouldn't you rather bridges, tunnels, public schools,
I
highways?
think we tried everything we could, and it hasn't worked. So let's try this. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Directly ahead, no question, there is a movement to delegitimize the Trump presidency. Now, one college professor says that is wrong. Also, Mary Tyler Moore has died. We will salute her incredible career.
How old are you?
30.
No hedging. No, how old do I look?
Why hedge? How old do I look?
30.
Upcoming. Impact segment tonight, giving President Trump a fair hearing. As you know, some on the left are not doing that, claiming his presidency is illegitimate. Joining us now from Washington, Jonathan Turley, teaches constitutional law at George Washington University. So you've been critical of the delegitimizers. Why?
Well, I think that there is an effort, a concerted effort, to create type of political mythology to suggest that President Trump is some type of pretender in office. And I think that's a dangerous thing. You know, my house was filled with friends and family that came to protest the inauguration, and I didn't join them, nor did my kids. Because I've taught them that, you know, the 4th of July is an important holiday, but it was basically a declaration to a foreign leader. The inauguration day is far more important because that's where we keep a promise to each other, that even when we're divisive, even when we're hateful in elections, we come together on that day every 4 years, and we affirm what's really a leap of faith under our system. And to see all of those members of Congress boycotting this inauguration, I thought was shameful. You know,
now, what do you think is driving, they have named it now, the Trump derangement syndrome? What is driving that?
Well, I think part of it is that there's a lot of folks in this town that want to redirect a lot of this anger. You know, the Democrats helped bring about this election as much as Donald Trump did. You know, they didn't look at polls that said that people wanted a anti-establishment figure. They didn't look at polls showing that Hillary Clinton had record negatives. They pushed through her like she was the anointed candidate for the Democratic Party. They steamrolled Sanders. The result should not surprise many people, but there's a lot of folks that want to suggest, look, it wasn't us, it wasn't our message, it wasn't our choices. Much of that same leadership is still in place. And instead they want to suggest that somehow he stole the election or that Putin gave him the office, which is, of course, ridiculous.
But those are all devices to generate a real hatred of Donald Trump. So he evokes this powerful support for his people who love him, okay, but also this hatred for people who loathe him. And I'm wondering what drives the loathing. Is it any one thing? Is it his personality? Is it a stance on an issue? What do you think it is?
No, I think that's what's so dangerous about this, is that there is this disconnect from reality as people create this mythology of just total hate. You know, I had one relative in my house who was talking about Trump supporters, very negative comment. I said, you know, there are very nice Trump supporters. There's about 47% of people voted for him. So you do realize that there are lots of nice Trump supporters, and she wouldn't accept that. And I think that's part of this
Why wouldn't she accept
mythology.
it, though? You're a logical man.
Well, I think
she wouldn't accept that 47% of the voting public isn't evil. She wouldn't accept that. That's irrational.
I think that there is this rhetoric that is pushing everyone to extremes on both sides, and it's dangerous for a government like ours. We have to get along at some point. We've got problems to solve, and sometimes when you have a big change, like the Trump administration, it can bring positive things. You can re-look at issues, and if Trump is willing to work with Congress, we could come up with some innovative solutions.
Well, if he's successful, that's going to make the haters hate him even more. You know that. See, I don't think you're ever going to win over a certain segment of the population. Now, what could Trump do himself, from your vantage point, to try to assuage some of this anger toward him? Is there anything that he could do?
In some ways, he benefits. I always tell my wife that the success of our marriage is due to the fact that I lowered her expectations so much that I've surpassed them every day. Trump may have that advantage. The expectations are so low. If he does anything but a nuclear strike in the first 3 weeks, a lot of predictions are going to be wrong. I think that he could show that it's possible to come up with new ideas. I thought it was interesting when he talked about inner cities and said, you know, I know that these are Democratic strongholds, but it hasn't really worked out that well.
No, it hasn't. No, if he sends the troops into Chicago, by the troops I mean federal agents and federal attorneys, that might go a long way in showing people that he does care about it.
Well, also, I think that he needs to look at more innovative solutions and new ways of looking at those problems.
Well, he's certainly taken a lot of action. I don't know how innovative it is, but it's certainly definite. Professor, we appreciate your point of view. Thank you. In fact, plenty more ahead. As the Factor moves along this evening, Lou Dobbs on whether he, a supporter of the president, can cover Mr. Trump fairly. Dennis Miller on Super Bowl madness. Martha McCallum on the latest of the Bo Bergdahl desertion trial. We hope you stay tuned for those reports. Personal Story segment tonight, as has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. There are a number of Americans who will never approve of Donald Trump, no matter what he does. What about the opposite situation? What about Americans who support him no matter what? Here now, Fox Business Network star Lou Dobbs, who is in that category, at least so far.
So far, so good.
You're an unabashed supporter of Donald Trump, correct?
Without question,
right.
Without reservation.
So if he screws up, you, Lou Dobbs, going to come in, or what are you going to do?
Well, let's look at the reality. 5 days in, he has had a historic performance. He's fulfilling, but in that time, he has fulfilled more campaign promises than Barack Obama in 8 years. Look at what happened with George W. Bush. This is a president who's historic in his energy, his animation, and his commitment to his promises and the American people.
You can't argue with any of that.
Excellent.
He come in like a tornado. He's done what he told his supporters he would do, at least partially, and you expect him to continue on this.
Exactly.
All right. But what if all of these things don't work? Let me give you an example.
Sure.
You're an economic genius, or so your staff tells me. So he pulls us out of a trade agreement in Asia, right? All right, now the folks don't know whether this is going to help their lives or not. I don't even know. It's a crapshoot.
Can I help you?
No, because we don't know yet. We don't know yet. But a year from now, we probably will know a little bit more. And let's say it wasn't a good deal. Let's say China and America are in a trade war. That's not helping either side. Are you, Lou Dobbs, flag pin and all, going to criticize Donald Trump, or is your rooting interest too intense?
My track record first. I've been blackballed by 2 consecutive administrations. First George W. Bush, then Barack Obama.
Why did Bush blackball you?
Because I insisted that you name the enemy and called the enemy radical Islamists.
No, that was Obama.
No, that was
Bush?
2002. It was Bush.
Okay.
Number two, why was I blackballed by the Obama administration? Because I called him on his immigration policies, his border security policies, as well as his
Okay, so
fight
those
against
two
terror.
guys, but now with so much emotion invested in Trump, if you have that, can you, if it doesn't work, say it hasn't worked?
Absolutely. I do it every day and have done it almost every day of my career.
When was the last
Because
time
I
you
have an
criticized
advantage.
Trump?
The last time I criticized Trump, early on, at one point, I thought he had exceeded himself in terms of some of his conduct, and I said so on the air.
Can you
one
give me an
time.
example?
No, I can't recall what the example was, but you're pressing me on that.
I know, because every time
but
look,
here's the-
I'm not disparaging you for doing
Well, you are.
No, I'm not.
But it's okay.
No, I'm not. If you in your heart believe that Donald Trump is the best leader for this country and his policies
I know it rationally, I know it objectively and intellectually as well as
I
in
got
my
no
heart.
problem with that. I
Good.
don't have any problem with that at all.
Good.
All right? But if it doesn't work, because
If it
he is a
doesn't work.
bold guy.
He's a bold guy.
Lou Dobbs
And I'm milquetoast. I would never, ever suggest that power is making a mistake. Let me say on the trade deal, we've had 40 years of consecutive trade deficits in this country.
Right.
Every one of those reduces economic growth for this country, reduces jobs,
more
reduces
money's going
capital.
out than coming in.
Correct. And it's time to change that. We know that about so-called free trade. And secondly, you cannot name one free trade deal, quote unquote, that is free trade, that is not impaired by some sort of obstacle, tariff, or tax on our goods in those reciprocal agreements.
All right. So you're, you know what? I tend to agree with this.
In terms of national security.
I tend to agree that all the stuff that we've done in the past vis-a-vis trade with foreign nations hasn't really helped the folks.
It has not helped the
let's
middle
try
class,
something
which has been shrinking for 30 years, precisely.
Let's try
And who was the only person who attacked the orthodoxies, the establishment that have failed millions of Americans?
Me.
It was Donald Trump.
Oh.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
And,
All right.
And Bill O'Reilly.
Lou Dobbs, everybody, there he is. And when we come right back, it'll be Miller time. The D-Man has some thoughts on the Super Bowl, including Lady Gaga on the field of play. And Mary Tyler Moore passes. We will have a salute to her in just a few moments.
The O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 16 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Miller Time segment tonight on Sunday, February 5th. The Atlanta Falcons will play the New England Patriots at Houston with a Super Bowl trophy and a load of cash. About 2 hours before game time, I will interview Donald Trump at the White House, so it'll be a big day. Joining us now from Santa Barbara, the sage of Southern California, Dennis Miller. You like the matchup, Falcons-Patriots?
Yeah, first off, Billy, I had lunch with my dear friend Nipper von Wiesenberger today, and he told me a great Super Bowl joke. Can I tell it to you?
I hope so.
What's the difference between Chuck Schumer and Tom Brady?
Uh-oh. What?
Tom Brady's a patriot and a winner. All right.
That was from
yeah,
Nipper. Nipper wrote that
Nipper
joke.
von Wiesenberger,
Yeah.
local Hawaiian kid. I heard today Goodell announced, and this is the only bring down about the Super Bowl so far, is that at halftime, in addition to Lady Gaga, they've now added Ashley Judd to recreate that poem of hers because he wants to show what will get you placed in the NFL protocol for concussions. So they're going to show Ashley Judd out there with a poem, and that'll show you what they're looking for in the way of being dinged.
Yeah.
Also, I heard today, I had another thought the other day when I was watching the Women's March. I think Madonna's onto something with that hat, whatever they call the hat. That looked like a very safe helmet thing. You could fill those up with clay, Billy, those two little prongs there, and the football players could run into each other. It would cushion the blow. You could call them putty hats. Putty hats. Now listen, as far as the game itself,
Yeah.
Belichick, you give Belichick 2 weeks to prepare. It's like giving 2 weeks to Einstein to get ready for Celebrity Jeopardy. So I think Atlanta's a great team. I really do. But this is how good the Patriots and Brady are. I can't imagine them not winning. They very well, could lose, but I can't imagine it now. That's how good they are.
Well,
So
the only
I'm gonna
way
pick
the only way they could lose, the Patriots could lose, is if somehow the balls get underinflated, and then they're like, can't even throw them at all, and they have to run the ball every
Listen,
play. That's the only
Billy,
way.
we don't live in that time anymore. The times things are happening like that, the balls are overinflated. Listen, sometimes it's a team's time, but I'm going to go with Brady unless, and I put this in as a caveat, unless Putin hacks the scoreboard. Putin is all over this thing. He might get in there and hack the scoreboard. You never know. And ruin the count. But say this about Brady. He is 2 Eli Manning passes, a miracle pass to Tyree or a catch by Tyree, and the Manningham pass, which was as beautiful as it gets, like a Ben Hogan 7-iron or something.
He's
just
the best quarterback
in
in the history of the league, Tom Brady.
I got to say so. I was always a Montana guy.
But I'll tell you why, Matt Ryan, a BC kid, is a fantastic quarterback. This guy
it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great game, but I just can't imagine. They just told Matt Ryan he's got to face Brady, and that's the reaction right
Lady
there.
Gaga is picking the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, Billy, now that you bring up Gaga again, maybe Tony Bennett's toupee could be a good safety helmet. Would that be something that would cushion the blow? That big. What were they called? The Tribbles on Star Trek. You remember the episode where those little fur balls took over the ship?
I don't believe Tony Bennett has a toupee.
No, me neither. Of course not. That's solid hair. It's been solid for the last. And Shatner, too. Nobody has a toupee. We're all good. It's fair and balanced here.
Hey, look, we give the benefit of the doubt here. Dennis Miller, everybody. Martha McCallum on deck. We'll have an update on the Bo Bergdahl desertion trial. Also, will those violent protesters in D.C. actually be punished? Martha, moments away. Back at the book segment tonight, did you see that? 2 hot topics, beginning with the 230 protesters arrested on Inauguration Day. Here now to explain what may happen to them, Martha McCallum, the anchor of the first 100 days, seen immediately before the factor. So the D.C. authorities talked tough after they arrested the 230. Any of them going to get punished, do you think?
217 were arrested on charges of felony rioting, which is more than 5 people involved and more than $100,000 damage, and that's exactly what they did here, more than $20,000. So their damage was over $100,000. Starbucks window, 2 banks, they lit a limousine on fire, rode on the side of it. That thing was blazing up and down the street. They caused a lot of damage, Bill, and they are going to appear in court. Many of them have already. They have a court date for most of them that will be in February. They were released on their own recognizance. Many of them pleaded not guilty, but they will get their day in court in February.
But I don't know, these kinds of things always start out, we're going to get them, and then there's plea bargain downs, a lot of them not going to show up. Released on your own recognizance, a lot of these people don't live in Washington. I mean, they're back. They're not going to show. Yeah, there'll be warrants issued for their arrest. But right now, all 217, there were 230 arrested, but I guess 13 they let go or something. Yep. All are still charged with felonies?
They're all charged with felonies at this point, and
so
they will have their day in court. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, to see how many of the 212 actually get punished. Because it just really, this stuff doesn't even happen.
Well, under these charges, they could have to pay $25,000 in fines and up to 25 years in jail.
Yeah,
so
but,
the potential penalties are steep. Some people say they got swept up in the group unjustly.
Say that, of course.
And in some cases, that may be true.
Right.
But there's a lot of video of these people. A lot of their faces were covered. So we'll see if they can nail.
And that's against the D.C. law, too.
So awful.
You're not allowed to have your face covered in Washington.
That's right.
You can charge for that.
Yep.
All right.
So we'll hope they stick with it.
President Trump on the campaign trail made some comments about Bo Bergdahl. Roll it.
We have guys like Bergdahl who get caught. I mean, he left. He was a deserter. He was a deserter. He was a dirty, rotten deserter. And we knew he deserted when we made the deal. Now, why would you make a deal for a deserter?
What do we do with Sergeant Bergdahl 50 years ago? That's right. Boom. Boom.
All right, so now his attorney's doing what?
So the attorneys put together a 28-minute tape, strung together all of these instances where Donald Trump called out Bo Bergdahl, called him a traitor, and you saw the rest on that tape. But now they're saying that because he's the commander-in-chief, he has something called unlawful command influence, meaning that in a military court, he will basically taint the jury, that they'll all say, whether they voted for Donald Trump or not, that they are under his command, and that they will be swayed by his opinion about this case.
Dismissed.
They want the case dismissed.
Based on, but he didn't say those things while he was commander-in-chief.
That's going to be his argument. You know, that he'll say, I said those things before I was president, haven't said them since. Perhaps if he made some new remarks that said that he wants everyone to be fair and just in this, perhaps they would see as very clear.
When is the next hearing in this trial?
So in April at Fort Bragg is the next appearance for Bo Bergdahl. And as you said, he's also trying to get pardoned by former President now Obama.
That didn't work.
That didn't work. So he will face these charges. He's got a desk job right now. He's not under arrest currently in any way. And we'll see what happens.
Is he in North Carolina too?
He is.
All right. So he's still in the Army.
Yes.
He's a sergeant.
He's a clerk.
He's got his uniform every day. He's got living and meals. And in April, but this thing has been going on forever. I mean, it's amazing how long it's been going on. So let's have the trial. Let's find out what's going on. And we're not going to convict him here, but we should have the trial. Martha McCallum, everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for leading into me with your fine show. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Factor tip of the day. Mary Tyler Moore passes. And we will have a tribute to her with a special interview as well, as the Factor continues all across the USA and all around the world. Tip of the day, the glorious life of Mary Tyler Moore in a moment. But first, quick thank you to Barnes & Noble, which is featuring Give Please a Chance this week in their stores. Nice book for the tykes. Now the mail, Megan Cheshire, Connecticut. I'm a Republican in college and surrounded by people who want to destroy my political beliefs. Can someone explain to me why we need women's marches? Well, some women believe Republicans want to reduce abortion, so that becomes a rights issue, Megan. Hang tough with your belief system. That is your right. Catherine Allen, Anza, California, my daughter and granddaughters marched. They are concerned about Mr. Trump's stand on women's rights in general. Well, maybe we should all see what he does, Catherine. Doesn't that sound logical and fair? Christian Lindsay, Concord, California. O'Reilly, great segment on the carnage in Chicago. 762 murders last year are within 11% of the four-year average of U.S. military losses in Iraq 2004 to 2007. Quite a stat, Christian. Renee Sanchez, Lombard, Illinois, is an ER nurse in Chicago. I see the murder carnage all the time. I cannot believe the politicians will not end the senseless violence. Derek Shepard, Edwardsville, Kansas. I usually take a cautious approach to using the label racist. But the murders in Chicago are just that. There's no question about it, Derek. Because it's mostly impoverished black people being killed, the political establishment, mostly Democrats in Chicago, but a Republican governor in Illinois, doesn't engage. Nor does Black Lives Matter or the race hustlers. Sue Payne, Damascus, Maryland. DACA was never an executive order. It was a memo issued by President Obama. Actually more like a presidential order, Sue. It was a policy carried out by Homeland Security to allow the so-called Dreamers to stay in the USA. David Broyles, Greeley, Colorado. Thanks for bringing the Dr. Gosnell story to our attention, Bill. It's amazing how the left, who claim to be champions of the most vulnerable, never show outrage over late-term abortions. Not everybody on the left, Dave, not everybody. But the pressure is intense to allow unfettered abortion in those precincts. You may have noticed Hillary Clinton succumb to it. Gerald Oliver, Plano, Texas. Bill, the cover of Old School shows you being whacked with a ruler. Did you deserve it? What do you think, Gerald? Do we need to take a poll on this? No, we don't. Old School out, March 28th, ruler and all. Ken Swain, Draper, Utah. My wife and I lived in the Philippines. After reading Killing the Rising Sun, I now know why elderly Filipinos despise the Japanese. Same thing in China and Korea, Ken. It was a brutal time. And finally tonight, the Factor tip of the day, the actress Mary Tyler Moore has passed away. She was 80 years old. The past few years, she had been ill. Direct cause of death not yet known. As I've said before here on The Factor, Miss Moore was an extraordinary presence.
Oh, Mary, hey, what happened? Tell us.
Well, it's hard to know where to start.
From the beginning. Start from the beginning.
Well, I got there and they asked me who gave me the documents, and I told them I couldn't tell them that. And then they took me to this judge's office, and he asked me why I wouldn't tell, and I said that as a newsman, I just felt I couldn't reveal a source.
Well, what did the judge say?
Well, he was a very nice man. He said he respected my opinion, and that if he had a daughter, he'd like her to be just like me.
Oh. Did he say anything else?
Yeah? He said that if I didn't change my mind by Monday, he's sending me to jail.
Oh, Mary, honey. Can I ask you a question? Did anybody say anything about my mileage?
Do you keep in touch with Mary Tyler Moore?
Not in the past couple of years. She's been very sick, I gather, and not out in L.A. where I'm based. But I don't cut to New York.
Yeah, yeah. You got along with her pretty well, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That whole cast?
She was a great star.
Oh, yeah.
She was the most generous star you could ever want to be with.
That's what everybody says. Mary Tyler Moore, a true American icon. We hope she is long remembered. Factor tip of the day. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, different from TheO'Reilly.com. Also, we would like you to spout off about the Factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com, O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name it down if you wish to opine. Word of the day, we want you to be pertinacious when writing the Factor. You want a positive word? You got it. We'd like you to be pertinacious when writing to the Factor. Okay, now President Obama is giving an interview to ABC News, and we will analyze that interview, whether it was fair, whether Mr. Trump, I said President Obama, it's President Trump giving an interview to ABC News. President Obama's out there putting somewhere. Anyway, we're going to analyze it tomorrow. I'm sorry for the mistake. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Please remember that the spin stops right here. So we're definitely looking out for you.